meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping later this month in South Korea. Speaking at the White House with Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, Trump has predicted a fantastic trade deal with China, but warned of a potential 155% tariff hike set to take effect on November 1st unless an agreement is reached. Trump has stressed that the U.S. has significant leverage over China, citing tariffs and critical technologies like aircraft parts, which could be withheld in retaliation for China's export restrictions on rare earth elements. Trump has further stated that China would be paying 55% and a potential 155% tariff, which are to set place on November 1st, unless they make a deal, adding that if they do not do business with the U.S., China is in big trouble. His such comments come as U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and Chinese State Councilor He Lifeng are set to meet in Malaysia to finalize the summit agenda. Let's listen in.
I think that things have de-escalated. We hope that China will show the respect that we have shown them. And I am confident that President Trump, because of his relationship with President Xi, will be able to get things back on a good.
Trump has also highlighted recent success in trade negotiations, asserting that deals with the European Union, Japan, and South Korea were fair and predicting similar outcomes with China. He has reiterated that the U.S. could retaliate with further trade measures if China continues to weaponize rare earth elements, referencing Boeing's role in supplying aircraft parts to China. In parallel, the U.S. and Australia have signed a major agreement to boost cooperation in critical minerals, aimed at reducing dependency on Chinese-controlled supply chains. Trump has emphasized that the U.S. and Australia would soon have an abundance of critical minerals to counter China's dominance in the industry. Meanwhile, China's Ministry of Commerce has announced new import quotas for fertilizers and crude oil. The ministry has set fertilizer import quotas for 2026 at 13.65 million metric tons and allowed non-state traders to import 257 million metric tons of crude oil in the same year. Now for this discussion, we welcome Dr. Asta Chada. She's a doctor from Ritsumeikan University, joins us live from Warsaw. Thank you very much, Dr. Chada, for joining us again. Good to see you.
Thank you. Same here, thank you.
Thank you. Now, looking at this news, how significant is this trade deal between Australia and U.S. and do you think this would be enough for them to counter China's rare earth industry?
Yeah, thank you. It is quite pertinent topic, but we need to understand this trade deal in the wider context of the changing face of American foreign policy, right? And that largely depends on America first, which means they prioritize domestic economic and security concerns over regional ones. That's one. Two, Trump's tariff diplomacy has been a very, very central tool of him trying to assert his economic hard power. And those are asserted not just on allies, but also adversaries at the same time. Now, given that Trump's visit and given that he's threatening China with 155% tariffs, which are already, additional as to what China already has, around 55%, and then the previously announced 100%. So what he's essentially saying is that unless China agrees to some deal which is beneficial to the United States, they already have partners like Australia in the pocket. Now, with regard to whether or not the Australia and US deal is going to be enough to cover this, I mean, it all depends on, because remember, most partners of United States in the region are now currently rushing to have some sort of stability in the region, right? So even if this deal does come through, it's not very easy for United States or any other country for that matter to entirely decouple or even de-risk from China for that matter. So while the rhetoric sounds very interesting, we'll just have to wait and see what kind of deal US president is willing to sign or is able to strike with the Chinese counterpart.
And Dr. Chada, building on that, Do you think, what are the potential global consequences or the consequences for US if it fails to reach a trade agreement before November 1st with China?
Right. I mean, there is obviously a very high risk escalation, right? I mean, if you remember President Trump's own words, he said